Terrariums are kind of tiny homes for plants. So there's three main varieties. So you can do an open terrarium, a closed terrarium, or a hanging terrarium. So that's kind of what we've been doing in our program. So an open terrarium is better for like succulents and things that don't need a lot of moisture. Closed terrariums are more like tropical plants, orchids, things like that that really like to have a moist, humid environment. And then hanging terrariums, it's easier to do like air plants that don't need a lot of care and maintenance, and they don't need to have a lot of dirt and everything that would keep it heavy and pull it down potentially from like your ceiling or blinds or something. We bring people in, we kind of talk about like how you would layer a terrarium for keeping your plant healthy and happy and letting it grow, what kind of care they need, and then what it would look like, you know, when you might need a bigger container than our tiny little balls, things like that. And so just kind of walking through that process and saying, this is what we're adding and this is why we're adding it, and kind of talking through the science behind it as well. So tonight we are doing hanging terrariums. So we're kind of talking about air plants and the common misconceptions around them, because people think like, oh, they're just air plants. They live on the air. They don't need anything else. And that's not true. They do need a little bit of care and love. And so kind of talking about what that looks like. We're putting them just in basic rocks. And so why are we doing that instead of adding dirt and things like that? So our registration has been full for every class so far, which is great. I think last month was our most popular. Registration opened and 1 minute later it was entirely full, and we've had a waiting list. So that's great for us because we want as many people in here making them as possible, but also we want to make sure that if it's something like that where it's clearly a lot of people want to engage with it and are really excited about it, that we're running it again, which is what we're doing with this program. So for the next 3 months, we'll do another kind of cycle of these 3 programs so that more people can get in the door and try it out. We saw a lot of terrarium books getting checked out and a lot of it popping up on social media like, look at this thing that I'm making. And so we were like, what if we do that in a library? And I have a group of staff who were able to test it out with me and see like, can we reasonably within like our cost parameters buy the supplies and make it happen? And we can, and so we're doing it, and I think people are really excited about it, and we are too. For the library to run programs, we have to be mindful that it's tax dollars funding the work that we do. And so figuring out how do we keep costs as low as possible while also maintaining like ethically sourcing materials as much as possible. And so a lot of that work kind of starts it out and then being like, okay, what's absolutely necessary versus fun to have? And so like a lot of terrariums you could add moss and things like that, or like cute little figures, which we have tonight, but that's because we have relatively low other supplies. And so kind of looking at that, like what's our cost benefit for a lot of those things, like what do you absolutely need to keep it safe and healthy versus, you know, the fun stuff. And then also looking at, you know, what is our budget for the rest of the year. And so we're lucky enough to have a Friends of the Library group that supports a lot of the work we do, especially financially, because I don't think we could do this on $2 a person, which is generally our limit for library funded programs. And so we get to have a little bit of extra financial help from the Friends of the Library to make it happen.